Welcome everybody to Homeless Magee's first World of Tanks video. This is my first review that I'm going to do. I'm going to make it quick. Now what do I mean by quick? 10-15 minutes. I'll be reviewing this tank here, the Elc Amx. And as this being my first video on this channel, I am more than open to criticisms, and I'm not going to be a wuss. If you want to say I suck, by all means, say I suck. So today, Elc Amx. Idiots drive this tank. So why do I drive it? Well, geez, that's because I'm an idiot. This tank has a reputation for having the worst drivers out there. This is suicide tank number one. The way people drive this tank is they cruise right into the enemy base and die, and then complain about the matchmaker in World of Tanks. However, let's look at my service record in this tank, and I'll show you why I like it so much. So in this tank alone, I win 52% of the time. Now for those of you that are new out there, most people have an overall win rating of 46% or less. So that's decent. I'm not going to toot my horn and say that's awesome, but that's decent out of 305 games. I've gotten a Top Gun medal, which means you get 6 kills in it. Just looking down the stats here. Average experience, enemies destroyed. I almost kill one person per game. I know that even looks bad, but again, hopefully when I show you the game I'm going to get into here, live here in a few minutes, we might see how other people drive their Elc Amxs. And now this little M here means I've mastered this tank, which means in 1 week I got more XP in this tank than anybody else that played that tank in a week period. So I know a lot about the Elc Amx, and there is a lot of ways to drive this tank. You might see some other more popular YouTube guys such as Bohemian Eagle, Quickie Baby, Rising Sun, any of those guys. They like to drive this tank very aggressively, and their main goal is to annoy the enemy team. Cause havoc while keeping yourself alive and using this gun. Now I know this gun doesn't look like much, but we'll get into it in a minute here. The way I drive it is a very fast sniper tank that can, when I feel the time is right, then go do what those other guys do and just cause havoc behind the enemy base. And people will ignore you in this tank. They see an Elc Amx, they think, oh, idiot's driving it, why should I worry about it? And that's what a lot of people do, and use that to your advantage if you get this tank. So that's just my brief overview of it. Now, what makes this tank so fun to play? Because that's one of the things that lacks in World of Tanks, is the fun factor on a lot of tanks. You'll buy a tank, and it's not that fun. Some people think fun is getting lots of kills. Some people think fun is taking lots of damage and surviving. But I, however, love my light tanks. I play light tanks more than anything else. I love being that stinging little mosquito that just pisses people off to no end. So, we're looking at 400 hit points here. That means I can survive one hit from a big tank. Most tanks up to tier 8 only do about 240 damage average per hit. Now there's some Russian tanks out there, German tank destroyers and so on that will definitely one-shot you, but for the most part, if you're playing a risky game, know that you can take almost 2 hits. 2 hits if you're lucky. Now we're looking, this is a very, very light tank. Never ram anything other than artillery in this tank. 7 tons is not a lot. Let's just look at a tank that is not that big, just to let you know how light this tank actually is. Let's look at the Sherman. Everybody knows the Sherman tank. This tank here is 32 tons. So, yeah. 7 tons ramming 32 tons. Somebody's going to die, and it's going to be you. Engine power, 250. Now, if we look at the power to weight ratio, you have 34.92 horses under the hood per every ton. So, yeah, imagine 250 horses pulling this thing. That's why it has such a high speed limit. It can hit that speed limit easily, not a problem. Now here's the thing, the traverse speed. This is how fast you can turn the tank itself. 38 is good, but it's not great. Let's compare it to the MT-25 here. It says 48, and people say that this tank is a little sluggish. This tank is not for outmaneuvering other light tanks. It's great for outmaneuvering heavy tanks and some mediums, but do not engage in head-on combat unless you know what you're doing with heavy tanks and light tanks. I mean, any tank. This tank is not a head-on fighter. Now let's look at this. This is millimeters of armor. 14 millimeters, 12 at the sides, 10 in the rear. You might be saying, well, that's not that much. You're right. Compared to the T95 that has 305 millimeters, 152 on the side and 51 in the back. Anything that shoots at you that this thing can get into, which is all tier 5 up to tier 9, anything that shoots this tank will penetrate it. Now this is all gun ratio, which is the last thing I'll get into. Turret traverse. The turret, yes, it has 44 degrees of traverse per second, which is fantastic, but it only goes to about that angle right there. It is not a true full 360 turret. That is as far as it turns right there. This is why this tank is not a scout. 360 degree or 360 meter view range. That's average. For a scout, normally you want higher view range, but you can work with that. Most tanks up to tier 7 have about that. Once you get above tier 7, if you don't have 400, you have a low view range. But it's the signal range that kills it. So you'll see a lot of people in the forums, a lot of people in the games screaming at ELC drivers to scout, and the ELC driver goes out there and gets killed. It's not a scout. Can it scout in a pinch? Yes, but it is not a dedicated scout. Because your signal range, that's your radio, you can only radio back 360 meters. So if you can't see them, they can't see you or hear you either. So this is not a deep penetration scout. And that is the top. This tank right now is at its full configuration. Now I said this would be quick, so I just kind of went through the stats there of the tank, just to kind of give you an idea and some of my opinions. But what makes this tank? I've already gone over crappy armor. Check. Very fast. Check. Maneuverability, it's above average, but don't go too crazy with it. What makes this tank is this gun. 90 caliber. That's a big shell. Rate of fire, 5 rounds a minute. That's not that great. But you can work with that. Average penetration on your normal ammo, that's just regular armor penetrating, is 170 millimeters. That's fantastic for a tier 5 light tank. 170 millimeters will pen through a lot. Especially if you play this tank smart, like I'll try to show you, and you attack things from the side, that can pen through almost anything. The most armored tank I have at the moment is my T95, and from the side, it only has 152 millimeters of armor. So if you shoot this sucker right here, shoot big old King Kong here in the side, this tier 9 American gigantic tank destroyer, you're going to anger the beast because you can penetrate. Another great thing, 240 damage. If you penetrate, they're going to be angry. That's a lot of damage. Sometimes this tank gets into a tier 5 only match, If you play it smart, there's no reason why you can't get Top Gun if you play smart. Now this value here is the gold round, the armor, armor composite rigid, 248. Yeah, that's going to pen through anything you come up against. Does the same damage. And the high explosive has crap for penetration, which is normal, but has extra damage, but you'll never see that unless you're shooting at artillery or the back of another tank. Now, accuracy. This is kind of contested. Basically, the lower this number, the better. But that's not what's contested. A lot of people will say this is bad accuracy. I consider this average. At this accuracy, you can snipe with this tank. Most American tanks have around this accuracy, except for some of the heavies and some of the mediums. But most of the lights, some of the higher tiers, they all have this accuracy. 0.38 is how much the shell has a chance to spread out at 100 meters. So the higher that number, the more it's going to spread out in meters. So basically it can spread out 38 meters per 100 meters the shot travels. This is what kills it though, because up to here, okay, average rate of fire, awesome penetration, awesome damage, workable accuracy. It's this aim time, and you'll see this in the match I'll get into. 2.9 seconds. You have to sit there for 3 seconds to aim your shot, because it's going to take you 0.1 seconds to click, and another, 0.3 seconds for the bullet to get there. A lot can happen in that time. So that is the major and only drawback of this gun, in my opinion, is that aim time. That is a horrendous aim time. But you can't have everything. So let's get into a game, and I will show you live either how crappy this tank can be or how great it can be. Now again, this tank can go through tier 5 to tier 9. Okay. Looks like we're in a tier 7 match. Not too bad. The other team has 5 tank destroyers, which means I'm not going to go rushing out too quickly. Their top tanks is an IS, a Panther, a VK-3002D, and a T-52/2. I will do reviews on a lot of these tanks later, but just always look at the mini-map, always look at the other team, analyze. These guys here are in a platoon. That means these chuckleheads here will be working together. So if I see a Stug, I know there's going to be more Stugs. And a Panzer 3/4. Alright. This is what I do at the beginning of every match. I look at my team, look at where they're going. Welcome to World of Tanks, everybody. What's going on over here? This whole side of the map. Nobody's going over there. This little square right here is artillery. Artillery is going to die. Mark my words, because he's going to get flanked. And as you see, we're engaging up here, but I'm not a city fighter. So without further ado, let's get this tank rolling before you guys start yelling at me for being a noob, sitting and not doing nothing. Now, why would I be going over here? Well, because nobody else is. And what I'm going to do is hide in a nice little bush back here. I'm going to get a shot off, maybe 2, and then I'm going to run. Because there's no way you leave one whole flank on the map open. That's just ridiculous. But again, this is World of Tanks. On a random match with random people, temper your expectations. That's one thing I've had to do. Alright, artillery just took a shot over there. Okay, here comes our little tier 7 German medium. He knows artillery's over there. I'm hiding in this bush. He doesn't know I'm here. Alright. Time to get a little tricky. Alright, he's coming around the corner. Track took it. Blasted that guy. I'm getting out of here. Alright, see, I took one shot there. Can I take another? No. So as you see, I have the maneuverability to get out of tricky situations. Alright, so there's 2 hits. But again, that was 1 against how many? 4 or 5 tanks? I think I did pretty good. Now they're capping our base, and you just saw that shot fly by me. That's why you need to dip, dive, duck, and dodge. I'm going to turn around here. Now I know artillery was just spotted behind us, but I need to get to this cap. How about this A-44? So basically I got the heat off me. I'm going back here to help my team out. Now if you look, we did whoop them, surprisingly. And there we go, just reset the cap counter. I'm gonna pull back. They have 3 tanks and 1 artillery. So pretty good. Our team actually did really well. This is one of those times where I eat my words. And the team actually worked together. They saw, oh, we left that flank open and they're capping. Maybe we should all go back. So, good job, team. And I mean that sincerely. Alright, let's go make this guy mad. If I can get to him. Ah, I couldn't get to him in time. Alright, so what did I contribute there? I held off that flank for long enough for the rest of our team to get unstuck out of city, which is this part of the map over here, to get unstuck out of city and come back and reinforce the base while I tucked my tail between my legs and ran like a little girl. Alright, so now we're going to look at the after results screen. Okay, 13,000 credits. That's not very good. Why? Because I didn't do a whole lot as far as damage goes. 559 XP, you know, I'll get what I can take. A victory is a victory. Let's look at the team here. This KV2 driver did a lot of damage. 2,453. The KV2 itself only has about 800 damage, or 800 hit points. So he did really well. So as you can see, the guys that were platooning survived. Teamwork, everybody. Teamwork here. These guys, I don't know, they went to city. I didn't run into them out there. Stugs are tank destroyers. Why go to the city? So anyways, just looking at this here, our team was simply better than theirs, but that could have gone both ways. With our team completely leaving artillery alone, and oh, look what happened. Artillery died. What did I say? You just don't leave a flank open. It's a very risky thing to do. It's a very stupid thing to do, but sometimes stupid works. So as you see here, shots fired 2, direct hits 1, only penetrated once. So yeah, only did 228 damage. Took 3 hits. Yeah, so there was a very good chance I could have died there going up against that many tanks, but I used my speed to get the heck out of there. So I said this would be short. So this is the Elc Amx. That wasn't the greatest video to show you exactly how to play it, but what it did show you is that the gun does a lot of damage. It's not very quick on the aim, and even though you don't have any armor, you've got a lot of speed, and that, in my opinion, is better than armor. Because if you can dip, dive, duck, and dodge your way out of bullets, why do you need armor in the first place? So, this is my Jurassic Park camouflage on here. Just as you guys can see, I got little velociraptors there, and I put a little breast on there. It's French, so it's not boob, as far as I know. But we'll see. Somebody will put it in the comments. So here is Homeless Magee's review of the Elc Amx. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be doing these more in the future now that I've figured it all out and put both halves of my brain together to figure out how to, record audio and video at the same time. Let me know if you guys want to see a review on any of these tanks. I did have a lot more at one point, but I sold a few to get a new tier 10. But if you guys want to see a review on any of these tanks, let me know. I'd be more than happy to make one. Alright, thank you everybody for watching.